My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast, where every episode I'll bring you an interview with a member of the fishing community, and they'll be sharing their faith stories and fishing memories with you. I'm your host, Cam Steele. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And so we've got an awesome episode for you this week. We're still running with the old intro. Just haven't gotten around to getting that changed to include Robert, but be on the lookout for that soon. I don't have a ton in terms of housekeeping this week, but I did want to go ahead and remind everyone, if you are enjoying the podcast, go ahead and leave us a rating and a review, especially if you're listening through Apple Podcasts. Those ratings and reviews, that's kind of like the algorithm that Apple uses to help you find us, or help new listeners find us. So if you're listening and you enjoy it, go ahead and leave us a rating and a review. And I'm very anti-Apple, so I'm not going to say go to Apple to leave us a review. But if you're already listening on Apple, go ahead and leave us a review. Robert, man, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain. So, listened to a bunch of podcasts today, cut some grass, went out to my son's school, had to meet the teacher night. So, it's a good way to wrap up the night tonight with a little podcast and a great guest tonight. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Man. Did you have some crazy storms come through this afternoon?
Oh yeah, I got soaking wet working today. So it thunder, lightning poured down. And, it would start for a while and stop for a while, but still managed to get a few things done.
Crazy wind, people's like patio umbrellas flying across the road. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, man, let's go ahead. If you don't have any other housekeeping stuff, let's go ahead, have a couple sponsor words, and then let's get our guest introduced.
Sounds good.
Owens, based out of Charleston, South Carolina, is an eyewear accessory and gear company focused on enhancing your time on the water. Their floating sunglass retainers are the most technically advanced around. Over 5 years of engineering, testing, and exhaustive feedback from paddlers, anglers, and watermen have resulted in a patented design in a class of its own. They're incredibly light and comfortable, built for durability, sport a sleek, minimal design, float virtually all brands and models of sunglasses, and they're backed for life. So if you break them, Owens will replace them. No questions asked. Whether you're fishing, kayaking, or boating, Owens will save your shades from the dream. Head on over to atollas.co to check out their gear and use promo code faithnfish15. That's faith, the letter N, fish, the number 1, 5, at checkout to save 15% on your order. With 30 years of experience of handcrafting lures under his belt, Mr. B of Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, jigs, underspins, swim blades, and more right here in the U.S. All of his skirts are hand-tied, and all of his baits feature a baked-on powder paint, all metal components, and only Owner and Gamakatsu hooks. All of his baits come in a variety of colors, and if you purchase a bait in the Battle Shad color, 30% of the proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project. To see the quality for yourself, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, to place your order and use promo code FAITH, the letter N, FISH, the letter N, POD, 1X10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. All right, before we go on, I did want to mention one thing about Owens. So I've been preaching their sunglass retainers. They are in talks with a manufacturer to try and get those back in stock. They lost their manufacturer about a year ago, and that is why if you go on their website, they're all out of stock. But I will say, if you are a fly fisherman um, and you are looking for a way to carry your flies to and from the water, they have a fly caddy that is it clips onto your hook or onto your visor in your truck, um, that you can get your stuff to and from there. And they have packages for freshwater and saltwater that they come with some flies from some of their local fly tires. So I just wanted to throw that out there for y'all. But Robert, man, you excited about this guest?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been hearing about this guy. I've been watching some of his trails, and he's. I went back and listened to some podcasts that he had been guest on, just kind of do a little homework. So this guy's been around the kayak fishing game for a long time, and I'm looking forward to getting to hear more about his story.
Absolutely. Well, let's get Steve Owens in here. Steve O, man, welcome to the show. Oh no, we lost audio again. We've been battling some technical difficulties, and we thought we had them ironed out, and that magical record button is magical in not such a great way sometimes. But
No,
we cannot hear you, buddy. Oh man. But yeah, while Steve is getting that worked out, I did want to say I want to reiterate what Robert said. You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Not yet, buddy. And every time I see Steve O's name on the guest list for a podcast I listen to, I know it's going to be a good one. Um, but yeah, we are.
yeah. So I always hear about that some trails people are talking about they're great trails. Some trails people are talking about that this needs to be done different. Just from everything that I've heard about Steve is when this guy's involved with the trail, things are done the right way. And I know he's helped grow that TVKA trail into one of the biggest grassroots trails. Um, so hopefully we'll get this audio worked out.
So if you're watching on YouTube, this is going to be a really interesting video because you get to see two of Steve while we try to figure out what's working and what's not. He said blue show. All right, so he is going to reboot, and while we do that, let's see.
Well, let's talk a little kayak fishing while he's getting that all set up.
All right.
We had Chad Hoover put out a video in the middle of last week, and he had already had the KBF, the front part of that schedule out. And, I just listened to that today, actually, while I was cutting some grass. And this is kind of from memory and shooting off the hip, but I know they're going back to Kissimmee for the first one, which is always.
What about now?
You got it now.
We'll go as long as we can. So,
all right.
Speed round. Sorry.
All right, man. Well, Steve, welcome to the show, man. And I feel like you are well versed in the craziness that can be the Faith and Fishing podcast now. So go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us who Steve Owens is, man.
I'm Steve Owens. I've been a kayak tournament fisherman for about 8 years. Tournament director for about 7. Got started in this when I moved to Lake Chickamauga. Moved here in 2011 and 2013, 2012 or 2013. My buddy Ryan Lambert, he was getting a kayak, and so I got off work and he and I went and bought a Yakima rack for my car and drove to North Carolina and from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and picked up a Native FX tandem, the old school canoe looking one, and we fished around for about a year, and he got into some tournament stuff and got me into it, and can't stand him ever since. But no, it's been a great time. And then he had started a grassroots club with some people here in town, and after my shift schedule changed, I started fishing it and took over. Was like lead director of that club, and that's Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers, and we fish Chickamauga, Gunnersville. Made my way through some other tournament stuff and got to work with Bassmaster and currently do Bass Nation and direct with the Hobie BOS and for the college series and a bunch of other stuff, and just work with dugout bait and tackle, and just I don't know, man. It's been an awesome journey, and it's still going. I still am passionate about it. Enjoy when we get new people joining, but my main goal kind of with dugout and tournament directing is highlighting our anglers. My job to partner them with people that they want to be partnered with and grow those relationships. I'm married, got a great wife, Jordan. You guys see some of our little travels and vacations. Got my son, he's grown. Had him when I was in high school, so he's grown. Good man. We got a great relationship. He's 29. Got 4 little granddaughters. Just nephew, spend a lot of time with. And just I don't know, man. We try to do as much as we can outdoors and just together, really. So got a huge extended family with the kayak community. Something I'm very, very blessed to be a part of. We none of us feel like we deserve what we get, but I really don't, because man, it's just so good to me, and it's great to be like part of what we get to do tonight, and just kind of talk about what's a sensitive subject to a lot of people, but it's the most important subject to everyone, whether they realize it or not. But you just have to be able to not sacrifice the truth, but find the way that the Lord would have you present it to them so that they are as accepting of it as they're going to be. And that's very hard, very, very hard. I don't understand how these ministers navigate what they do, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I just want to pull one thing from that story, because you said, and I'll give a little quick backstory on this. You watch KBN and you see Lambert sitting there, and he just looks like a regular sized dude. We went to Toledo Bend, was the first time that I saw him in person, and he's a big son of a gun.
He's a man. Yeah, he is.
I've seen some pictures with you and him side by side, and you're a big old boy yourself. So I would have liked to seen both of y'all in that native fishing together. Yeah. So that had to be a quite the adventure there.
Well, now I'll say this: we didn't actually get in it together.
Okay.
But yeah, we've gotten into about everything we could in those natives and everything. But yeah.
All right. I thought you said it was a tandem. I was like, man, if them boys was in that thing together, I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. No, and he, he used to be a skinny fella. You can look back at some of our pictures, because he and I have been friends for, golly, what is this, 22? We've probably been friends, golly, since it's probably been 15, 16 years. I mean, a long, long time, way before fishing. We went
Right.
to ball games and stuff together, and just running buddies and whatnot, and just doing whatever. He always had some sort of mud boat or duck boat, and that's what we kind of fished out of. And then his little daughter Mackenzie was getting to where she was going everywhere, and he used to have a little turkey seat he would put behind his propel when we got those, and she would sit in that little the little tripod seat
Oh
about
yeah.
big. She'd sit back there and about as long as she could. It'd be a couple of hours, and she was ready to jump in or throw rocks or something. But yeah, it's man, it just seems like forever ago. But
It goes by quick.
it does. It does. Like Mackenzie, she's that's his daughter. She's a really good athlete and volleyball player, and she's starting to catch up with him with that wit. So he's got it cut out for him. All y'all got the quick wit, but got it too. So it's a good time, man. That's he's my family, and if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be where we're at in this community, and especially the confidence that he gives me, because that's something I don't have naturally, and he's always been right there. It's like if I look up and I see him there, then I kind of know I'm going to be all right, because just kind of the way it goes. But,
Yeah, man. So let's talk about some of the trails that you have and that you do kind of direct. So, um, which which trails are you directing right now?
Right now, Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers, which is our grassroots club in Tennessee, we're part of CAST, which is our governing body. There's 10 clubs total in it, just so that every region gets representation. Because if we didn't have it, we would all be driving 6 hours to fish a tournament. But that's worked great. We're very organized. The rules that we have are actually what KBF kind of took and they started writing their rules off of, and it's pretty simple and basic. So we do that. Our state championship's coming up in about a month on Kentucky Lake. Be about 100 and something anglers in it. I co-direct Tennessee Bass Nation Kayak Series with Daniel Davis, along with Georgia Bass Nation Kayak Series. I kind of do the booking, the organizing, the planning, and getting the sponsor stuff in order, and then Daniel and I judge each state's fish with one another. Um, and then this year he ran literally, I think, all the Tennessee events except for Del Hollow. We ran it together. And then we have a dugout bait and tackle online series that we do. Don't know if I'm gonna have time to get it started this year, but it'll be some. If we don't do it this winter, we'll probably do it in the spring. But that's typically October, November, December. Weekly winners, weekly qualifiers to our 50 angler championship, and I mean, I think we give away around 30 grand in prizes during those 3 months, and we average 111 the first year and 109 last year per month. Pretty happy with that, and it's designed to give back to the anglers that support the shop. And then the Hobie Bass Open Series College Tour. I work with Hobie and AJ McWhirter doing that. AJ's a good friend of ours. He lives 25 minutes from me here in Tennessee, and we spend a lot of time together. And just always how it is. You have it's hard to be able to talk to people and relate about certain things unless that's what they do too. So he's along with a few other people in the country that you can actually talk tournament director stuff and be a person that can speak that same kind of language. And it's been great to have him. And Cody Prather, he doesn't live far from us now, and he's a huge resource. Just the insight and the perspective that those two give on not just kayak fishing but friendship and life are invaluable. So we've actually got our last tournament of the season for the Hobie College Series on Lake Gunnersville this weekend, and then the championship will be on Lake Hartwell in November. So, and I kind of that's all I'm actually committed to right now. There's some other things on the table, but as those come, some things will go away. But that's my busy schedule. Plus, I have a regular daytime job, and I work remote for Dugout Bait and Tackle. So
That's awesome. Yeah. So I've heard a little bit about some of the challenges um, that go. Excuse me. This sparkling water was a bad idea. Um, I heard a few of the difficulties that tournament directors go through. Some of them came from you whenever you were talking to Armando over on Bass Kayak and Beers. Shout out to Armando. We love him over here. He's been on here a couple of times, and he's a great guy. Um, but he is outspoken about some of the changes that he thinks needs to happen in a few different trails. Um, so what kind of for our listeners who may fish in a local trail or something, but never really paid attention to the director side of things. What are some of the challenges that you end up facing?
I think the biggest challenge is and it sounds cliche, but I really do want to hear everyone's opinion. But a lot of people just don't know how to share their opinion in a constructive way to where you don't get ticked off and just kind of like, hey, buddy, look, in all intents and purposes, we're doing this for free so that you can have fun along with ourselves. But, you know, dumb it down, it's for each of you two as well to have fun, just as a collective group, that gets represented. But that's one of the biggest challenges. The other challenge is kind of people's logical thinking. I mean, because we schedule, like right now, we're scheduling for next year, and we're working around one another. So let's just say we book a tournament in April on a lake, and the next thing you know, a boat tournament gets dropped on it, or it rains, or there's a big strong winds. It's always, well, we should have had it a week later. They would have been biting, that kind of thing. But those are things that you have to learn to kind of push away. But that's really about it. I mean, the rest is just your time, which is something that we all wish we had more of. Um, you take somebody like me and AJ who take on about everything that we can, and it's just but the good thing of it is you get, like John Ferguson, our good buddy here, he's helped us with a lot of things. You get Daniel Davis and people like that come out of the woodwork, or not necessarily woodwork, but like what something we do in our grassroots club is, we put 3 sets of eyes when we would judge in person on the phone. So I would judge a fish, Lambert would judge a fish, and we would pick a person per tournament to judge with us as well, so that you learned, number one, how we do what we do, so in case you're ever needed. The other thing that we found, what it was doing is it was showing you how to not make mistakes anymore, because you were judging these fish and you were seeing what was happening. And everybody always is, really, anything you need, give me a shout. Anything you need, give me a shout. Well, it's needed, but a lot of times we're not going to ask for it. But we do have some really good people around here that kind of see that we're not going to ask, but we really do need them. And they'll take the initiative. We've got Jonathan Caldball, Casey Smith, some other anglers in our grassroots club, and Charles Armstrong. He hadn't fished in a long time. He fished 2 or 3 years with us, and started a new career. And then just out of the blue, he fished our Tennessee Bass Nation Douglas tournament and qualified for the state championship. And as soon as he showed up, he's grabbing chairs and tables, and we get a lot of help from people, and then he actually ended up qualifying for the Bassmaster Classic Championship in March. So he actually got the last spot, and I finished right behind him. So, yeah.
So, you're busy, and people know that about you. You got a lot of irons in the fire. Uh, looking forward and looking at the stuff you guys do with the grassroots, looking at the Bass Nation, the Hobie stuff, uh, KBF. Long term, where do you see the 3 main trails? How do you see that, and what would be your vision for that? I think if you ask people right now, most people would say in the kayak world, kind of AJ and Hobie are kind of sitting in the catbird seat, and rightly so, because he does a great job running that. You go to one of those tournaments, and it just feels a little bit different than the others. But how do you see that kind of shaking out, and where would you see that, in the future, how those three trails, what do you think is going to happen with that?
And like you said, Hobie deservedly so. AJ is a person that is perfectionist, but what he's being a perfectionist about is something that he wants to be really good because he knows how much we all enjoy fishing. Hobie has always given him the support he's needed. Now he's had to go and work hard to get that from them because it's not easy to get pennies from people, but Hobie's been very, very good as a company overall, and anything that's ever needed with that. But he did. He knew right out of the gate. The main thing is to be in work with integrity. And something Lambert and I learned with our grassroots club because we've messed up because literally for 4 years everything we did was brand new to all of us. Lightning storms, you know, people being late for check-ins, blurred pictures, identifier codes that were jumbled up. I mean, we had to handle all that, and when we would mess up, we literally the next day would make a post or call all of our people, and we would just say, "Hey guys, here's where we screwed up. We'll try not to do it again." And they not ever once had a problem with it. And that's something AJ's been really good at is getting out front and saying, this is what we need to do better. And we're scared to death to make a mistake because you get vilified, you get made fun of, you get plastered everywhere. And I don't, I can handle about anything that comes my way, but sadly, I still struggle with disrespect or, rudeness or whatever. But as far as the Hobie goes, it's where it needs to be because of the hard work put into it. The anglers have supported it. Bass, I was, fortunate to be part of the crew that helped get that started and built and run the first year. And the problem with Bass was literally that they did not have clientele in house that had the amount of time to run it that they needed. That it was probably less than 10% of their overall time management to run that series, and that's been literally said to us as we were helping them figure some things out. That's changed now. They're out, they're looking and interviewing to hire a direct kayaker to handle it, and they've been very vocal and listened to any format changes that we think need to happen. Because when you're on the fly, the easiest thing that they could have done was try to get us to operate like the boat world does. That's the easiest way for that to work for them, except for the fact of there's countless numbers of us who have done it our kayak way, and it's not perfect, but you can either try to make everyone do the way you do it, or you can try to do what you do, one singular person, the way the kayak industry is and has been already for a very long time. And I think that they just got overwhelmed because there was one body trying to do it all. And that's changing, like I said, and they understand there's a public perception of not caring, which is not true. They do. It just like I said, they were understaffed. There's the Bass is not a big place. I mean, there's not a lot of people in office and in house. And then unfortunately, there were some a gentleman had passed away that ran a lot, and his job duties were split to two or three people who already had more on them because there was a hiring process for someone to run a certain section of that place, and that didn't get to happen in a timely manner. And then COVID hit and threw all the schedules, so they literally had to reschedule the entire series in 2 or 3 weeks. Because the year that I was going to run most of that season, the kayak schedule we had was amazing. But that got undone, and then some things came into my life that are blessings, but I had to step away for a time. But I feel like when they do get that person in there this year, they do. I mean, I've already gotten confirmations that the changes that need to happen to bring them in line will happen. After that, it takes the anglers being constructive, um, and in being constructive, communicating the way we need to help them, bring along things on social media because they do understand that that's something that, we're a social media driven sport. So I think they'll get it right. We'll continue to do our Bass Nation stuff, which feeds that, and in doing so, it helps educate them even more so. And on the KBF, I really don't discuss that very often. I mean, they've been at it long enough. It's obvious what they need to do, and that's just up to them to do those kind of things to keep something that's been popular and needed in the sport relevant.
Cool.
Yeah, so let's dive into your faith also, man. So kind of let us know what it is that you believe, how you came to believe that. Like, what's your faith story, man?
I believe Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior, and he died on the cross for remission of our sins, and it's through grace without works. And I mean it's a gift that's there, um, and how I came to that, and that's the only way. There's one path, in my opinion, to eternity, and eternity is not necessarily should be what everyone's focus is. It's your relationship with God. And I tell a lot of people, even my son and some others that struggle sometimes in their faith is you can't let what Cam or Robert or myself do, how we represent our faith. I don't even use the word Christianity much anymore because it has gotten so hijacked and turned into a spectacle or a sporting event or a tool of ridicule by the devil that's tricked people. I believe in Jesus. I believe in worshiping, Him as a disciple, hopefully to help bring people, to eternity with us. But you can't let what a church does, right or wrong, draw you in to an extent. It's you. You seek your relationship with Him, and He will take you where you need to go. And sometimes that's because He closes a door and forces you forward, and then sometimes it's just He opens one and lets it sit there, and some sort of aroma kind of just pulls you there. But how I came to that, I mean, I was raised in a good family, good people, believed in God. We had Bibles and stuff. We didn't have church life. What I did do is I had a good friend of mine that lived across the holler from us. We were from the country. His family, they went to church, and so I'd go with them occasionally, and went to a little Nazarene daycare growing up. So we'd have vacation Bible school stuff like that. So we heard the stories and things like that. Didn't see a lot of personal application. Started working with my uncle, just doing construction stuff as extra money when I was like in middle school and stuff, and he was a minister. He had been to school to seminary school and everything. He wasn't practicing, but we talked a lot. And he was an interesting person to talk to. He's my best friend for a long time. So he got he kind of got me interested. Stirred my interest, and so I'm believing God and this and that and the other. I didn't have salvation in my heart at all. So you know rocked on probably. I graduated high school in '93. So about 95, 96, I was working. I was a reactor operator right out. I got a phenomenal job right out of high school. So working on my chemical plant job, and gentleman invited us to church. Like you have those people on every job. And so we go, and it's a play at a big church here in town, and it was about revelation coming, and it was a very good play. It was well articulated, props and all about heaven, hell, and so I'm sitting thinking, okay. Well, I was always a history and like a political minded person, even young. So I love reading, and so I'm reading these books about what's going on in the Persian Gulf and things like that, and then I start reading Book of Revelation, and I'm like, whoa, this is some crazy stuff, and so what do I need to prepare for this tribulation period? We got to have water. So I'm sitting here in my mind, again, I'm what is this? This is 95. So I'm 21 years old. And my mind is like, okay, we got to prepare for this, until he bails us out. And then one day the Lord put it on my heart. He was like, bud, you don't have to prepare for that stuff. You need to be seeking me, and a scripture came across about how we'll be judged on how we raise our children. Well, I had a small son. Like I said, he's born in '93, so he's 2, 3 years old. And my ex-wife and I, we weren't great. We weren't raised the way we acted. We were sadly abusive to one another, and just had a lot of hate and anger. And then some years passed, and through some friends that I worked with, um, started visiting a church in our hometown, which is Lambert. We're both from Jasper, Tennessee, basically. So started visiting that church, and I'm seeing these things, and there's a gentleman I work with named Paul, and I was quick, like those people that are like, well, I don't want to be a Christian if you act like that. Well, Paul was the guy that did it the right way. He came to work, he did his job. So he's witnessing, just not even really directly, but I'm listening to him tell these stories about things that are happening in his life after they pray and everything. So, my ex-wife and I, we start going to church, and one of my best friends from high school, yeah, he had turned real religious. I mean, I'm talking about like, hey, how you doing, David? Oh, I'm doing pretty good, man. Hey, what do you think about, and he just would always, bam, just punch you right in the mouth with Jesus, and you were just like, come on, man. And so I started getting to hang out with him more. And in about 1998, I finally, I just started reading. And as I'm reading through the Bible and I'm reading these stories, every time something happened with Jesus, like if he did it for the lady at the well, in my mind as I'm reading, it was me. I was in every story that I read. It was me. And it was something I didn't even realize until years later. I'm falling in love with this person that is just doing this for these people. And now you got to remember, I already know what's going to happen to this guy. You know, they're going to betray him and kill him. But he's still, and he knows this, and he's just over and over and over doing this for these people that he knows are going to betray him or hurt him later. And I'm just like, this guy's amazing. He does care. He literally loves us and is doing this unselfishly. I want to experience that. I want to have him, which is something that a lot of people miss. And Cody Prather has helped me with this. Is you know the gift of salvation is there, but he has to be the Lord of your life. You've got to let him have it and guide you, and not in the mainstream way where they think we're just blinded or just led like we're fools. That's just not it. They don't. Something people miss, and I think I do a good job remembering when I'm talking to people who don't believe exactly what we do is you can read a book, you can live all kinds of things, but we always neglect or forget the fact that things that are happening are supernatural. They can't be explained. It's different between all of us based off of what we need each time. So, um, you know, uh, found salvation and was all in, and my ex-wife as well. She came to know the Lord, some other people in our family, and but the things we had done to one another, it was kind of just, it was too much for her and her heart to be able to continue to live. So we're together. So I mean, it was one of those where you're a great husband, you're a great wife, this and the other. So sadly, I can't explain it. Sadly, we divorced and we moved on, and that all happened. That I got fired from that great job. Had to leave my family, and my dad died at 51 years old from a staph infection. All in like a month. And so that led me at about 29 years old to being a person that worked every day and had a family to just living. I was self-medicating, with booze and stuff, and just partying, and, doing whatever I could, to just take my mind off of everything. And granted, I didn't do those kind of things from after high school. All I did was work. And so I'm having fun here. I've always been a person at work. We played sports, at work and stuff, and I had family stuff, my dad, my mom, and all of them. But I never had that big massive group. So I get out there and I start realizing that we've got charisma. We're doing all this, and I just went down a road there for several. I was an absentee dad. It was like this. I'd go get my son and we'd have a decent time, and it was all I could do to hurry up and get him back so I could run off and leave and hit the bars with my friends. Or we traveled, but we'd go to Nashville, Knoxville, Atlanta, and I mean, it was just awful. I mean, I run around with biker gangs and street gangs, just lived in places I shouldn't be, but just because I would befriend somebody there, and then I just turned into just something I wasn't proud of. And slowly but surely, I got to be, the Lord put some people in my life. Uh, a girl that I was dating actually looked at me one day and she said, you're not the person here that you are when you're away from everybody that you know. And it shamed me, and which was conviction. Um, and so I left that and just started putting my head down, and and got another killer job, that I deserved because my experience and stuff, and just slowly started fixing me. And then met my current wife now. She was a homebody and just she didn't do anything. And then met her with some mutual friends, and just I realized that's the person you want. And you've got to be a person, not only that she deserves or you deserve, but a person that can treat her or anyone like they need to be treated. And she's a believer, and so we didn't live together. We'd go to church and stuff. And my son had moved in with me, and I'm talking about like from he was 12 years old. He lived in a bachelor pad with me and two roommates. I mean, so that took some undoing, a lot, some years. But that it's I didn't deserve it, but the Lord knew I needed that person, and it was her. It was Jordan. And she's a very quiet person. We have great communication, but she's very quiet. But she's just, and it's odd to say she reminds me so much of my dad. It's because my dad was a very quiet person, but when he walked somewhere, people respected him because of who he was. He's very kind, generous, giving. He was 6'4", 240. I mean, he's a big man, 6'5" almost, and just athletic, and just was a presence. But people knew who he was. And that's the way it was with Jordan with me. Is I knew, she didn't deserve nor would she tolerate how I was, and she never even said a word like that. I just knew it. And so the Lord brought me back through around there. And and I still have my struggles, but one thing that I do know is that my witness and my purpose on this earth is to share my failures, so that people don't think, man, I can't do this. Look at what I do. That's why I mentioned the mental health stuff. I during all that I failed to mention, I had crippling depression and anxiety. I would lay in bed for weeks at a time and be off on leave of absence from work. The phone would ring and I would just panic. It's like, oh my gosh, what is that? And it was just, and the whole time I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you? Your life's good. Why are you feeling this way? And it was situational stuff. And then I went through a couple of years of counseling. A lot of good stories there about how the Lord just opened doors that weren't even visible to get me where I needed to be. And it was all situational. It wasn't anything chemical or anything like that. It was situational. I had to learn how to slow everything down where I could process and think about what I needed to do to react. And then I learned, pretty quickly from Dottie, my therapist, is to not let you bring me out of character, because I am very bad about having to go back and apologize to you because I said something too quickly instead of just letting the situation go. And I don't like that. I don't like having to tell you that I hurt your feelings or I'm sorry for something I said. So I've adopted that my dad was that way. He would just let a lot of things go by, except for what needed to be talked about. And so beating that, and my son has some anxiety, and helping him through that. And I learned through Dottie how to kind of counsel and help people cope with that. And so that's become very important to me, and has for the last 10 or 12 years, especially since we've gotten into this sport, because I realized quickly how many of us all have it from time to time. And it's not even like it used to be where you would go seek treatment for it. Everybody's got something. Everybody's got some form of anxiety, or something that society or the devil or whomever, his evil spirits, have conditioned us to have these depressions and sadnesses. When if you would just get off of this device or turn the television off and go outside, just walk to Home Depot and start saying hi to people, you're going to feel better. You will. I used to sit in the parking lot for hours and hours in my car and listen to third day CDs or whatever. And then finally, I literally was just like, you know what? You need to get up and walk around. And I'd go in the stores and just people would say, hey, how you doing? Immediately would feel better. And so that's something that, I just shared it with a good friend today. She was laying in bed, disheartened over the way of the world. And I was like, bud, that's gonna be this way till we're gone. So let's focus on whatever we need to today to not have all of that. And so now we've got a really good church home around here. I want to be more active in it. It's something that we're called to do all the time. And I think it's more important now than ever that we share the gospel the way it needs to be shared. It's our job to tell one another what we are doing wrong because we're brothers in the Lord. We're believers. We know that's what Scripture tells us. When it comes to non-believers, it's not my place to tell them they need to quit this or quit that. It's simply that there's something here for you, and you need to, you want to talk about it, we'll go that route. Let Him take care of everything else because, like I said, it happens supernaturally. And that's something that gets lost, and it's going to continue to get buried just because of the way the world is accelerating in what it does. As the end times approach, Scripture says it's going to be like this. If you just imagine how bad it was back in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah and stuff like that, we're nowhere near that. You know, there wasn't a good heart there in these places, and we still have plenty of good light here. And so that's where I was sharing with Christine is don't let that light get buried. Call somebody. And I don't mean to keep rambling on about it. It's I'll find all kinds of sidebars to go this way and that way. So, but mental health is very important. So,
Absolutely. I'm going to talk to the listeners real quick, and I'm just going to say this might be the episode where I'm going to tell you to pause right here, go back to where I asked that question, and listen to it again because there are so many things that are just like that just need to be heard. Um, and there's no way I'm going to touch on all of them, but man, what a story. Um, yeah, it's funny. Your dad sounds an awful lot like my grandpa Steele. My grandpa Steele, he was 6'4". If you ever watched Hee Haw, the character String Bean
yeah,
looked just like my grandpa Steele. And he was 6'4", and he was a pastor in the Methodist Church, and all the other pastors in the denomination called him Gentle Ben. And he was the kind that he was always quiet. He grew up with a real bad speech impediment, so he like the Ents in Lord of the Rings. Takes a long time to say anything in Old Entish, so you never say anything unless it's worth taking a long time to say. That was what he was.
yeah,
And he like when he talked, people listened. And um, my dad, the way my dad says it is, I only saw my dad mad once, and I deserved it. Um,
yeah, yeah.
um, but uh, but yeah, and I mean, just what you said about mental health, that's so important for people to hear, um, especially in the religious uh, context. We hear so many times somebody comes up and shares their testimony. It's like, I was going through depression, and then I found Jesus, and now I'm good, kind of thing. But like, it's
There's a lot of details in there that
yeah, absolutely. It's so important for you to say, I got counseling, I got help. Um, you know, yes, Jesus helps, but sometimes you need some other help too. Not that Jesus isn't enough, but Jesus can use somebody else to get you pointed in the right direction and get you and pull you out of depression, or help you work through your anxiety in a way that Jesus has equipped them to be able to help you. So very, very important there. And then just so many little things that, you know, um, you know, I'm sure there's a pastor listening that's like, well, there's a sermon. Oh, there's another one. That's a good one right here too.
Yeah, I think it's, a couple of things from that, and we've talked on the last few episodes about God's timing and when He opens or closes, in some cases, some doors, or He puts people in your life. And I mean, that Steve's story is just another great example of that. And his timing is perfect. We might not always agree with it, and we might not always understand it at the moment. But I can't tell you how many times I've looked back on situations or things that have happened, and at the time, you don't understand it, and you think sometimes it's the worst thing in the world that could have happened. And then you look back on it, and a certain amount of time goes by, and you look back on it, and you say that was perfect because now all these other things happen because that did. So that's just another example of that. And then on the lighter side of things, excuse me, I grew up in Clarksville, Tennessee. So on the other side of Interstate 24 from Nashville and Chattanooga, and you mentioned that you grew up in the holler. So I'm just wondering, as in Chattanooga in the holler, did they name it by like the family that lived in the holler? Because around Clarksville and Dover, Tennessee and Stewart County, they named them by whatever family, like it would be Shepherd Holler or Lehman Holler. And so was that the same down there? Did they name it by the family name?
Yeah, I was actually hear me. I was actually raised in after I think we were 9, 10, 11, something like that, in Helltown. Helltown's where I'm originally from, right there in
Okay.
County, and it was Hicks Hollow. Hicks
Okay.
Hollow. Was the
All right.
Is the Hicks. So yeah, my
That's
niece,
awesome.
she's a Hicks. So yeah, yep, Hicks Holler. Yeah.
Steve, there are a couple questions we always make sure that we ask everybody, and you are no different. So I want to make sure that we've got enough time to ask.
Yeah.
What fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Uh, Now I've got so many of the stories that you mean like memory or catch.
Memory.
Okay, memory. I'd have to say, and this hit me the other day when you were listening. I was re-listening to you. You talked to Jim Moore. I was, I used to direct KBF tournaments, and we had one on Chickamauga one day, and it was can't remember if it was my dad's birthday ish or when he died, the anniversary of his death. He died in '06, and I started fishing in 11 or 12. So he'd been gone a while. Well, I'm out in the water, putting in, and I was fishing a slough, and I was kind of, having a moment, kind of like, rest in peace, Rebecca Golden, the golden hour. I mean, the sun was at that moment. And I was just thanking the Lord, I was just like, I was thinking of my dad, a little bit emotional, and I'll cry dropping my hat. So as I'm thinking, I just stopped. I took my hat off, laid my rod down, and just was just like, Lord, thank you for being here. And about that time, it was a shad spawn. As far as I could see, sun blinding me, looking down at this golden water, shad flickered everywhere. It was just like I was boiling in that water. It was just so gorgeous. I mean, it's nothing but gold splashes everywhere. It it sounds kind of strange, but it was kind of like he was just like, "Hey, buddy, you're welcome. I'm here," and that's the memory that has stuck out for 2 or 3 days now. Because I thought you might ask that question, and that's the one that was it. I mean, it was. I mean, he was there. It was pretty spectacular. One of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you go out on the water and you're fishing with a group of guys or girls, I mean, what's your conversation like? What are you usually talking about?
Man, really just much of nothing. We'll talk kayak stuff, life stuff, sports, just whatever. I mean, we just carry on about whatever. I mean, it is really whatever's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a bunch of nothing really.
I hear you.
That's awesome. Well, man, with all of our guests, we always do a segment called What's Your Favorite? It's self explanatory. We're going to ask you your favorite in a few different categories. and I am not going to risk the technical difficulties coming back. So I'm not going to play the ad right here. I will add it in post. So we are going to dive right into it. Robert, you want to get us started off?
Sure, yeah. What's your favorite scripture?
Romans 8:28. All things work for those who glory and love in the Lord, and it's not that you'll get everything because you love the Lord. It's just whatever, like you mentioned a little bit earlier. I think you alluded to whatever you go through. It's going to be all right because you're His, not because of you. Anything you do, anything you say, because you're His, and He's going to let you be all right. You may come to leave this world early, but it was because that was what was best for you. And so that's it for me. Romans 8:28. It's been a life verse for me. And I'm blessed to have a friend since we were in kindergarten, 5 years old. Um, First person I really kind of witnessed to after I had, learned faith, so to speak. He was an atheist, but he listened to me. And fast forward about eight or 12 years later, I was divorcing, standing in my mom's backyard, and I turned and looked, and in my mom's neighbor's yard was my best friend from childhood who was getting a divorce. And I turned and I was like, Travis? And he's like, Steve. And we walked up, and I knew we just fell all over each other, crying, hugging. I knew he had been saved. And he did. He said, I want to thank you for that. And that was his life verse. And it hit me too, And so that's it. Romans 8:28.
That's awesome. That's powerful. What about a particular story from the Bible? Is there one of those that's your favorite?
I was listening to Jim here, and I was telling my wife and another friend here lately. It's the demise of King Saul. That's what we've been studying is that the book of Samuel at church, and and you see it coming, but it's really been laid on my heart how many times the Lord will show you. Here is Saul, this the mightiest being ever, and instead of he expels all the witches and the fortune tellers, but when he needs something, that's who he goes and seeks. The people he shunned, instead of going to a rabbi or a preacher or something, that's where he went. And then they even told him, the Lord revealed to them, hey, here's what's going to happen to you here. You don't change your ways, 24 hours, you and your kids are dead. And he still does it. That's us. That's us. We will stick our hand to that stove until we are engulfed in flames, and I'm guilty of it a lot, and it makes me angry. I hate it. It's something I struggle with, but I'm going to beat it. But that's it. It's the demise of King Saul, so it's nothing glamorous or warm and fuzzy. So yeah, just pay attention to how you're living, or he'll get your attention. So
Yeah, that's
Sure.
right. So going to some fishing questions. What's your favorite fish to catch? So once it hits the lure and you're reeling it in, what's your favorite one to catch and reel in?
smallmouth. Yeah, I catch predominantly largemouth because I live on Chickamauga. There's smallmouth here, but there's a reason we fish Del Hollow every year in December. It's because it just. I'm sure you being in Clarksville, you might have made it over that way,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I went to school at Tennessee Tech in Cookville, so I was right there for
There you
for a
go.
while. So
Yeah,
it
there you
was it's a beautiful place, no doubt.
That's awesome. What about your favorite fish to fish for?
Bass. That's kind of being flat honest with you. Other than crappie, that's what That's what I fish for. I mean, I've done some offshore deep sea. Red fishing's fun. Red fishing's fun, but I don't get to target that, so it's bass.
Yeah, red fishing is right up there. We had a conversation about that not too long ago. So what about to eat? What's your favorite fish to eat?
Man, I tell you the truth. My wife and I did we went to Niagara 2 days, Boston 2 days. Got to see the Yankees at Fenway. We won one of the last. We've lost probably 35 out of the last 36 games, but we won that night. And we did 2 days in Cape Cod and 5 days in Maine. The 2 days that we were in Cape Cod, we sat down and ate. It's Alaskan cod or whatever it is. They may have cod in Maine. I don't know. But that's what that fish was, and it hands down was probably one of the best meals we've ever had. So I like mahi mahi, but cod is probably my favorite. It's pretty mild. But whatever it is they've got in Cape Cod, that fish was it.
Huh.
Yeah, up there, I think it's the Atlantic cod that they're
Okay.
eating. But
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Lambert introduced me
interesting.
to sushi. I really like. I can't eat. I'm allergic to shellfish, but seared ahi tuna. That's. I'm gonna back up. Seared ahi tuna. That's it.
Yeah, it's good
Oh,
too.
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, since we're talking about food, what is your favorite fishing snack?
My what?
Favorite fishing snack?
Snack. For me, it's probably my wife will go and get a 30 count Chick-fil-A the night before. I learned that from Garrett Campbell, and I'll put it in my cooler. And about 10 o'clock, I'll set it out under my seat. It'll warm up a little bit, so I get Chick-fil-A about every tournament. So yeah, yeah.
Well, what about body of water? What's your favorite body of water to fish?
Seminole or Gunnersville. I fished Seminole about 7 or 8 times. I don't live very far from Gunnersville, and that I'd say, man, that's tough. Seminole's amazing. Those, it's down close to Florida. Those fish are. It'll be Gunnersville. Gunnersville's my favorite lake to fish. Yeah. I live on Chickamauga, but Gunnersville just Chickamauga's very tough anymore.
Yeah.
Rambling off a lot of bucket list lakes for me there, buddy. Yeah, man. So what about your favorite lure to throw?
Chatterbait, chatterbait or jerkbait. Chatterbait. I'd say chatterbait. That's what I get to throw most of the time.
So are you strictly jackhammer, or is there another one that like the original or the Project Z or something like that?
I've thrown them all, and again, I'm not an expert at anything in my life, but I've got the slobber knockers that just come out from Berkeley, and I like them. I'm on the Picasso team. Dan will get me, but I like the shock blades. The carbon fiber are all okay, uh, but uh, it is the jackhammer. It's just different. It's different. I believe where we live right now, they're kind of conditioned to it. They did that with the umbrella rig for a while, but it's. I mean, you just that's yeah, it's jackhammer. That's it. That is the only chatterbait ever made. Really, everything else is a vibrating jig.
I hear you,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's funny you said that about being an expert. I question anybody who says that anybody is an expert at anything, because
yeah,
that literally means you know everything there is to know about that subject, and nobody knows everything there is to know about anything. So
I have
Oh,
become an expert at being proven wrong though. So
haven't we all? No, we'll wind up the favorite questions with time of year. What's your favorite time of year to fish?
wintertime. I,
Wintertime.
I don't. I like it if it's raining, 25 degrees. I don't. I love wintertime fishing. The bite is just different. Whether it's a jerk bait sometimes can kind of be slow, but what I've experienced is it's a dump truck bite. Same way with an umbrella rig. I mean, luckily I live here on Chickamauga where they make Hog Farmer umbrella rigs, and he's a good friend of mine, and he showed me, you fish an umbrella rig like you do a crankbait. You fish it to get it caught in something, and we use light wire hooks so that they can straighten out if you get caught on a rock or a brush pile. Um, I used 20-pound copolymer. I literally caught over 100 fish on one winter and never retied that copolymer knot.
Hmm.
Braid, you can hear it. You can hear it through that umbrella rig. He's done microphone studies, and it's awful. They'll still bite it because they're angry, but you can hear the braid. So it's just super annoying, and so I use copolymer. But wintertime, that bite is just, I mean, I love it.
that's
Cool.
awesome, man. Well, we're gonna start wrapping things up. If you would let us know, what do you have coming up for Steve Owens, and for all the stuff that you've got going on?
Yeah. Well, kind of, everybody's listening. Be in prayer. I have some opportunities coming up, and all of them lead to me helping go full time and grow what we do at Dugout Bait and Tackle. Jamie Koza, AJ McQuarter introduced me to him several years ago. I was about done with kayaking, just disenfranchised, tired, and he said, "Man, let me take you to a shop. You like stuff. You like fishing rods and reels. You like promoting." And so I met Jamie. and his wife with my wife, and and that's it. Rest is history there. But I want to continue to grow that. My son owns Precision Hardwood here in town. He works Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia. He's doing really, really well, to the point where he can't really handle the day-to-day paper and grow. So that's something I'm good at. So hopefully I can transition to that and do some more kayak stuff. So that's on the personal level, and my wife's very supportive of it. So be in prayer for that. There's two options there. I have to choose pretty soon. The other we got the Hobie College tournament this coming weekend on Lake Gunnersville, and then after that we have the Hobie Championship on Lake Hartwell in November, and then the middle of November I run the Georgia Bass Nation State Championship on Lake Seminole. November is a phenomenal time to fish that lake. It's going to be lights out. So that'll be the first tournament series state championship. Our angler of the year was Joseph Gayton, won $1,000 from Carl Black Chevrolet cash for angler of the year points. And then after that, we start the 2023 season off in December of this year on Del Hollow for Tennessee Bass Nation. So kind of a little bit of downtime, but not really. So just a really, really, really good time.
Absolutely, man. And I want to give you an open floor for shout outs. If you have sponsors or supporters, anybody you want to say thank you to, the floor is yours.
Okay. I won't take half an hour on this one, but I do. I want to thank you guys for having this podcast. We need to support the things like this because we all get disenfranchised with tournament fishing. That's all we talk about. And there's, it's a small portion of our sport. It really is. But I just, on a personal level, I want to thank my wife for, she's always supportive. She communicates with me the way I need it, because I don't accept criticism right out of the gate. But if we have a thing, it's like, hey, we're going to have a husband-wife talk, and then that's it. You hush and you listen, and it works. I want to thank her, my son. He's very supportive of me and gives me the confidence to do what I want to do. Like I spoke about Ryan Lambert, he pushes me. Jamie Koza does the same. AJ McWhorter, Christine Fisher, Jay Wallen, and all them. They're very supportive of me and give me the confidence. Daniel Davis is right hand man in everything we do here. And then moving on from there, what's truly important? I want to thank the Lord for just an unlimited amount of chances. That's just the best way. That's why no matter how many times you guys were to do something to me within reason, we're gonna make it through it because he forgives me however many hundreds of thousands of times a week for what I do. And so I really want to be thankful for that and just ask that, I yield and let him be a bigger part of my life every day because it can always be a little bit better.
Absolutely, man. And if listeners want to follow you on social media, follow your adventures, all that good stuff, get in touch with you, how do they find you?
I have a Facebook page. It's pretty active. My Instagram is kind of up and down some because I do so much of our sponsor highlight stuff. But Facebook, my phone number is all over everything. And then obviously those tournament series that we talked about. So there's that. We do have one other tournament. The end of September, our grassroots club will have our classic. And what that is even if you're not a dues member, you can pay $20 extra to fish the event, and that goes into the payout. But we fish from Friday 3 p.m. until Sunday 3 p.m. around the clock, as much as you can fish, as little as you can fish. And it's still 5 fish for the whole weekend. So if you have family or church obligation, you still get to fish as much as you can fit in there, and it's a freaking good time. We have a blast, and so that's going to be on Lake Gunnersville this year. So reach out to us at Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers if you're in that area. So, that's it.
Well, Steve, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been an awesome one. We overcame the technical difficulties, and it ended up being absolutely worth it.
That's right.
I appreciate that. I do carry on when I talk. It just kind of just takes off, and I don't know how to stop it sometimes. But
we like it.
Putting up with
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, again, thank you so much, and wish you all the best.
Hey, thank both of y'all. I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Savior Outdoors gives me confidence that no matter what happens, what I take on the water is coming back home with me. With retrieval devices for fishing rods, bow fishing bows, action cams, and even one that can be attached to your other gear, they've got your whole arsenal covered. When one of these devices goes in a drink, it releases a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back, and the pressure-sensitive filter means that you don't have to worry about raining or dips in the water while landing a fish. At SaviorOutdoors.com, that's SAVUR Outdoors.com, you can use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% and try them for yourself. Whether you're a Ned Rig vet or a finesse fishing noob like me, Jade's Jigs is your source for high-quality finesse jigs that raise the bar by being lead-free. Using a tin bismuth alloy not only makes Jade's Jigs eco-friendly, it also makes the jig lighter so you get the same profile with less weight for the fish to feel. Check out jadesjigs.com, that's JADESJIGS.com, to see their full lineup of jigs, styles, and colors. And since you're a Faith and Fishing listener, you can save 10% on your order by using promo code FNF10 at checkout. Another huge thank you to Steve for coming on the show and sharing his story with us. I'll have all of his links in the show notes, as well as the All Things Faith and Fishing link, where you can see mine and Robert's links, sponsor links, merch store, all of that good stuff. Robert, man, what an episode!
Yeah, man, that was pretty cool. I had a feeling it was going to be a good one, and we weren't disappointed at all. And I mean, just several things, and I'll kind of wrap up. Me and you both fish out of kayaks, and we both experienced the fellowship that goes along with that. And just sometimes I think it's important to remember that in our everyday lives and at these tournaments, people are always watching, and you never know who you're impacting, and you never know who you're bringing closer to Christ. And, his story, there were several examples of that. And it just made me, think about, hopefully my actions. And that's one way that we always close a prayer at dinner time at our house is try to let our actions and our words bring other people closer to Christ. And, that's just a great example of that. So got reminded of that a few times during his story.
Absolutely, man. Well, it is getting late here where we are, so we're going to go ahead and call it. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless. Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by me, Cam Steele, and is sponsored by Jade's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Savior Outdoors, Atollas, and Mr. B Lure Company. Be sure to give us a rating and a review, and to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.